Dear creative industry, I've been working with you since 1998. I've been involved with you for a long time, and I've been thinking, and there are a few things that I'd like to say. My name is Corey. I live in Portland, Oregon, and I've been a professional cinematographer for over 20 years. So you could say that I've been in this business long enough to have witnessed quite the sea change in how the industry deals with politics, how it follows the trends and forces of the times in which we're living. Now, there was a time when I was first starting out when the tacit understanding was that one was to learn the camera systems, learn the set protocols, show up to the job, and bring value. It didn't matter who you were. It didn't matter what you looked like. It didn't matter what your skin color was, what your background was. At least in my experience, what your gender was, although I can't claim to know that 100%. I will give that caveat. But at least in my experience, I felt like being a professional, having the skills, having the know-how, and having a good attitude was integral to my future success in this industry. And so I started off working my way up the chain of camera department, all the way from camera utility through second and first AC or assistant cameras, and now I'm a DP. And it's interesting because I think around 2014, 2015, I noticed a shift in how I was regarded as a professional working on sets. And specifically, this showed up for me around the kinds of jobs that I was able to bid on and land. What I began to notice was doubt on the part of the executives running the agencies and creative directors and people who were in a position to hire people like me for their not only professional skills, but aesthetic sensibilities. And where this showed up in particular was in that agencies seemed to only consider me for positions and jobs where diversity was a mandate. Now, this was very interesting to me because I had spent many years building up a skill set, learning all the way from super 16 millimeter film to 4K, 5K, 6K, 8K resolutions, digital cinema. And my skill set is robust. I feel qualified to do the vast majority of jobs that I bid on. And yet, I have encountered systematic doubt and questioning of my abilities and my professionalism to a degree that I did not experience in the late 90s or early 2000s, which is when this idea of entrenched racism was supposed to be more, shall we say, prevalent. So here I am living in Portland, in what is regarded as one of the most progressive cities in the country. Is kind of a parody of itself in that regard at times, working in one of the most progressive industries. And yet, I have experienced a tremendous amount of, what else do you call it, but racism. If I'm not being judged on the basis of my merits, but on the basis of my skin color, these immutable characteristics that in the woke ideology associate me with a lower standard of capability. Well, that is, to use their parlance, problematic. I've had agencies call me and say, oh, we need a diverse crew, so we wanted to make sure that you were at the top of the list. I've had other situations on set where I've been referred to as, quote, a fucking diversity hire by people that I've worked with who have subsequently not apologized. On working on a political spot for a Democrat Party candidate, I had the producer of the job come up to me in the middle of doing a very technical procedure, one that only a handful of people are qualified to do, and lean into me very close and say to me, just so you know, There will be no monkey business on this set, and I'm watching you. I've had my agent try to shop me for a project that was, interestingly enough, meant to market a certain book called White Fragility, and meet a lot of pushback from the marketing team regarding my credentials, despite my having an industry standard resume that includes shooting for outlets such as Vice and Rolling Stone, and having a demo reel that displays my aesthetic sensibilities and my professionalism on set. And the only thing that makes sense to me is that the core values of this woke ideology that has infiltrated the industry, namely that people who look like me are reduced to a set of essential characteristics that they can all be held collectively to, and that those characteristics are so immutable in their determinism that I cannot transcend the limitations of my birth. Now, to me, that smokes of racism. That smokes of a collectivist essentialism, and that supersedes my identity as an individual human being, which to me is all that should matter. How I show up as myself in a work situation, in a professional environment, in a friendship, in a relationship, these are the things that matter to me. Showing up as an individual and being judged on the basis of my individual merit, not as a token representative of a particular group, a group that I don't really fully belong to anyway, being someone who has a mixed heritage. Some of that is African, some of that is Caucasian, some of that is Jewish. Make of that what you will. And so, coming from that mixed background, I have only ever been able to rely on being myself as an individual. That is how I show up in my life. And I do not see that gelling with the film industry in its current iteration, where these woke ideologues have taken over and they have broken people down into these broad categories that supersede their individual experience. Now, I'm not interested in participating in an industry that is going to reduce people such as myself to a theoretical abstract. And I'm not willing to participate in an industry that is going to override my individual will. I would prefer to be treated as an individual and judged on the basis of my merit. And I do not consent to be reduced to my skin color or to other people's assumptions of who I am on the basis of how I look. It's taken me a while to come to this conclusion. I worked myself to the bone to try and figure out what was going on. Why was I not being considered for so many positions? Why was the word diversity always coming up in the context of working with me? I was so stressed out that I stopped taking care of myself and I got sick, and I was diagnosed with advanced stage 4 cancer 2 years ago. That forced me to take a step back and reevaluate what I'd been doing. And it forced me to look at some of the things going on in the industry and how they were affecting me. And that's the only reason that I can sit here today and share all of this with you, because I don't know how much time I have left. I've been given a 27% chance to live, and I want to do something valuable with that time. So I'm appealing to the industry because there are good people in the industry who are trying to do the right thing. Stop, look at yourselves, and ask yourselves, are you really acting in the service of making the world a better place when you are assuming another person's experience and you are relegating them to a narrowly defined set of experiences, skill sets, knowledge, and outcomes? I don't think that's really what you want to be doing. Anyway, that's all I have for now, and I hope it helps.